the Catholic Church, 2 weeks prior to the 4th of July, had a fortnight of prayer where we were praying for the restoration of freedom of religion in our nation, especially with regard to the HHS mandate. I would like to know what your specific plans are with regard to restoring religious freedom. And please keep in mind that your answer should include whether or not Obamacare gets repealed and whether or not Obama is reelected or not.
Thank you. Is that specific enough for you gentlemen? Yep. Okay. This round of questions, the first person will be Mr. Nieves, then Mr. Oxner, Mr. Melendez, and Mr. Long. Mr. Nieves.
Well, religion, first of all, Christianity plays a big part in our country, in our nation. Religion also does. I've always wondered why government seems to often attack religion when religion is proven to be good for our society. I believe that government should work towards protect freedoms of religion, not just one, but all, and stop the attack. It is a foundation for our beliefs as a nation. And so, on the same topic, as you mentioned, Obamacare, Affordable Act Care, I said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that we did not go far enough. I don't like the word repeal because it includes some very good aspects. But what's bad is bad, and we have to go back in there and revisit. We have to revise what's there and make it better.
Okay, Mr. Oxner?
Okay. I think the First Amendment says there should be no establishment of religion. And I think our President and our Congress has forgotten that. And in fact, what they're doing is they're establishing an anti-religion. It's the opposite of what our founding fathers wanted. I would repeal Obamacare. Like I said, I have a plan to not only repeal Obamacare, but put in something in place that is much better, and much better for America, and much better for Americans. And for as freedom of religion, I go to a church right now that meets in a school, meets in Ponciana High School. In New York, they just ruled that churches can no longer meet in schools. They forget that one of our first churches met in the capital of the United States. Thomas Jefferson went to church in our capital. Our Second Amendment was about protecting religion. Now our Congress and our President are attacking religion and saying, you know, atheism basically is the religion of the state now, or secularism.
Thank you. And I believe you meant the First Amendment was about protection of religion. The Second Amendment is about protection of the individual.
Yes, ma'am.
That's okay. Mr. Melendez.
The Democrats love to evoke, separation of church and state, which isn't delineated or enumerated within the Constitution when it's convenient for them. Yet when they talk about Planned Parenthood, or they even talk about Obamacare, forcing abortion to be part of their provisions. They say as part of the insurance exchanges, only one of the exchange options does not have to include abortion, the other ones do, and then you have to separate it. That's the way Obama was clean about it. He was like, wait a second, the actual bill that you pay does not have to have abortion, but you have to have a separate bill that you pay separate and apart that pays like $1 to subsidize abortions. And this is something that to me is unconscionable. And then you also talk about vouchers. Allowing children that are stuck in a failing school to be able to attend the same private schools that everyone else has an opportunity to succeed, yet the Democrats say vouchers aren't good because they may go to a Catholic school. But isn't that the freedom that we're fighting for? When we say freedom of religion, that's the part of the Constitution that they seem to ignore. And like you said, what Thomas Jefferson mentioned in the essay, they didn't want anybody else creating their own religion, but we're supposed to freely express ourselves. And we talk about Alan Grayson. This is the same Grayson that says he hopes that Tim Tebow fumbles because it was the God that let him down. And I'm telling you, this is something that's an assault on American values. We have the National Day of Prayer for the first time in the White House not being accepted. And yet we have the holy month of Ramadan. He's quick to not to recognize the holy month of Ramadan, but our National Day of Prayer is not on there. That we talk about Twin Towers falling down, and yet they can build a mosque in its replacement, not too far away from it. So I agree.
Thank you. Mr. Long.
Yes, you know, we started the nation, and I'll give you the quote from George Washington: religion and morality based on the teachings of the Bible are indispensable supports of self-government and freedom. The two go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Moral people need immoral people, drug people are in need of masters. For the first 150 years, the Supreme Court of this country called this a Christian nation with freedom of religion for all. That's what this nation is, and what every nation's got a value system undergirding their laws. And these are Christian values, but we accepted people from all races, religion. You didn't have to be a Christian, you could have whatever you wanted to do. But that's the value system we have. And under Obama, we've gone from Christianity, religion good, business good, family good, government unnecessary evil under the Founders' Day, to Obama's got a government great, religion bad, Christianity bad, business bad. It's all backwards, and there's no wonder why we have a $16 trillion national debt. We're intent on bankrupting the children of this country, destroying this country. What they're trying to do to the Catholic Church and faith-based institutions and force them to fund abortions and all that's more of the same, destroying the family, trying to break up the family, not honoring life. It's all part of the same spirit and the same culture. You can't have a successful nation. We can make all the laws we want. You can have the best congressman in the world. If your society's corrupt, it doesn't value life, people's rights, their liberty, obviously religious freedom. That's why I held a religious freedom rally. My job is to educate. That's why I wrote a book, 30,000 copies are out, teaching people what made this country special, that it is a Christian nation with freedom of religion and all. And I'm going to support all of our Christian values if I'm your congressman.
Thank you, Mr. Long. For the benefit of the audience, I'm going to read you the First Amendment, and then I'm going to take a prerogative before I go back to the audience to ask a question related to the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. In relation to freedom of speech primarily, I'm going to ask you gentlemen, what is your position on the Patriot Act? And this question,
I do have a follow-up on that.
I'm sorry. No, all four of you had an opportunity to answer that question, did you not? Yes, they did, sir. That's okay. Mr. Jamie, please, I'm sorry, go ahead and do your follow-up and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, now I know how close it is. I thank you that you are all saying that you are defenders of freedom of religion. My question, though, was what specifically do you plan to do once in office, should you be elected, even if Obama is reelected, even if you can't get Obamacare repealed? What are your specific plans to protect freedom of religion, i.e. the HHS contraception mandate, i.e. school choice, those kinds of things? What are your specific plans on that?
Gentlemen, I'm going to give each of you 45 seconds to be very specific as our new congressional representative. Under those conditions, what would you be able to do? And we start again with Mr. Nieves.
Again, I will provide the support, I will protect the freedoms of religion. In terms of specifics, I look for focusing on the economy and creating jobs. It's pretty much in our Constitution, and what is there is basically what we have is an attack. I mean, you have to fight. So I will fight. I will fight to protect the values of our nation, however I need to. Definition of marriage. I mean, we can go on down the line. I think the question to me is more about commitment. And I have been a Christian all my life. I have been exposed to Catholic Church. I've been exposed to Presbyterian Church. I've been exposed to Southern Baptist Church. I believe all religions are good for society, and I look to protect them all.
Thank you. Mr. Oxner, is there a specific action that you can think of that you would take as a congressional representative under those conditions?
Yeah. If we have Obama, we have Obamacare. I would put specific legislation in place to remove the part of Obamacare that takes away our freedom of religion, and having churches cover what they shouldn't cover based upon their religious beliefs. So I would try to put in legislation that would take that part out. I hope we're not at that point that we can repeal Obamacare, but if given those situations, that's what I would do. And when you talk about school choice, I have radical ideas on school choice, that we should the Department of Education should be removed, and we give all the ability to the states and the local, and I would fight our local school boards here to put in a school choice program like is in New Orleans, where I grew up. It was one of the worst school districts in the nation. Now it's one of the best because of school choice.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez.
If we can't repeal Obamacare, I would introduce an amendment that prohibits any of the insurance exchanges from paying for abortions. And that is something that's very important to me. It doesn't have to be mandatory. I mean, I don't think any of the Obamacare needs to be there, because I think the whole thing obligates, Americans to do things that are against their moral values. So I would introduce specifically an amendment that says, if I can't overturn the whole deal, that we will not be paying public funds for any abortion types. And then the second thing I would do is I would actually sponsor separately a Life Begins at Conception Act. Because the other reality is we cannot overturn Roe v. Wade at the congressional level. That's the Supreme Court to do that. So I want to establish a definition of when life begins, therefore making it unworthy of anyone to do an abortion, because now it's legally murder because life already begun at conception. So I would support or co-sponsor, because it already exists, the Life Begins at Conception Act.
Time. Thank you. Mr. Long.
I want to see if we can't repeal. We're going to repeal Obamacare. Okay, that's going to happen. There's no if we can't. It's got to happen. There is no alternative for this nation. The latest figure here is that Obama said he wanted to keep it under $1 trillion over the next 10 years. It cost $900 billion, went to $1.6 trillion, about $2.6 trillion. Every 3 months, it's going up by hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And that message needs to get out. When you're bankrupt, you can't afford another $2.6 trillion. Obviously, when you don't like, if the whole bill stands, you rip out the individual components you don't like and the things that offend our religious liberty, making the church pay for contraception, abortions, all that needs to be stripped out. It's a terrible idea. But this bill, Obamacare, has got to be repealed. I mean, that's a guarantee of the death of this nation. Just not your health care. It'll be over. When this bubble hits and your dollar's not worth anything, we're off the gold standard or anything. There's no plan B. When your currency is worthless. If you remember countries like Argentina and Russia when it happened, Russia was a superpower overnight. What happened to Russia? It goes quickly. I'm not trying to scare people. There is no alternative. Obamacare is going to be repealed. We're taking Grayson out. We're taking Obama out. We're getting back to the country values that make this country.
Thank you. I'm going to take prerogative before going back to the audience for one question and staying under the rights that are protected under our First Amendment, considering the right to free speech and the current conditions of the Patriot Act. Do you support federal government access to private communications without a warrant? And Mr. Melendez, we'll start with you.
That's one of the issues that I have with NDA in general. When it starts using the military to go after private American citizens, I have a real issue with that. I'm in the National Guard, and we're the only ones in the military structure that's allowed to bear arms against our fellow citizens, but only amongst the order of the governor and only in times of crisis. That is, during a hurricane, we have to protect the assets. It's very prescriptive on what the federal government can or cannot do against its fellow American citizens. We do have a constitution, we do have due process rights, and we have to respect that. If we don't do it ourselves, then there's no sense of fighting for this country, because this country is fighting for democracy and the rights of individuals that are legal U.S. citizens to be able to enjoy the freedoms that America has. And I really am against the NDAA or any other federal legislation that oversteps the federal government's boundaries and doesn't respect the privacy of every American citizen that myself, my father, my grandfather have fought for, because we didn't fight for this country because it just looked good. We fought because we wanted our freedom, our independence. We didn't want other people, especially the UN and any 21 bills that they want to send to us that try to control who we are. That is not America. We want our freedom and we want our privacy.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Nieves, then Mr. Long, then Mr. Oxner.
I believe that it's run its course. I believe it was needed back when we implemented it, obviously for obvious reasons. But we no longer have people in caves trying to attack us. We've pretty much taken care of that. What we have is open borders, and that's what we should focus on. The Patriot Act has run its course, and I believe it's time to go away.
Thank you. Mr. Long.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there was a time of crisis. Some of the Patriot Act is, I support, and their heart's in the right place, but what's happening in all these cases is, like you said, these warrantless searches on citizens. I mean, we're just throwing away the Constitution. It's